Call to order the Thursday, March 21st, 2024 meeting of the Beaufort County Airports Board. If you please rise and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Public notification of this meeting has been published, posted, and distributed in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. Everybody, as usual, has received a copy of today's agenda. Any comments, suggestions, changes, additions to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion to approve the agenda. So moved. Rich. David, second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Motion to approve the agenda passes. Same story with the minutes from the February meeting. Everybody received a copy. Any corrections or changes? Looking for a motion to approve the minutes. Jim, Leslie, a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? The minutes passes. We now have a 3-minute time span to accept comments from the public. I remind anybody you're welcome to speak, address the board, but please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Is there anybody who wishes to speak at this time? Hearing none, we'll move right on. John, Director's Report.
All right, thank you, and welcome to March, end of March almost already, so it's almost Heritage Time. First, I want to recognize a few people in the audience. Lisa Kinwell is here from Congresswoman Nancy Mace's office. She's one of the local reps, so thank you for being here. Our council rep, Tom Reach, is here. I don't know why you're sitting way in the back, but you should be right up front here. And then, of course, we have some of our presenters with us today, but also some of you may not have met Derek yet. Derek's the new manager at Signature, so he's the GM at both Hilton Head Islands, Signature, and Savannah. So he replaces Ben, who's moved down to Miami. And is the transition complete now, or are you guys?
It's complete, yeah. I'm not living here yet, but I'm here full time.
Okay, so we'll probably see, Ben will probably vacation back up here. Miami will get too busy for him, so we'll probably see him. But Derek's our guy at Signature, so we welcome him. He comes to us from Charleston, so he's got a lot of great experience dealing with a lot of the same clientele that we see here on Hilton Head Island. So we welcome Derek, and I'm glad he's here because I forgot to tell him about the meeting. So glad you made it. And then, you know, John O'Toole from the Economic Development Corporation is here to speak. With him is Kelly Brunson, who's his newest staff addition, although she's not really new anymore. And Hank Amundsen is with Beaufort County. And Hank is, he's a man with no title and every title at the same time, I think. But Hank works on economic development projects and special things that the county administrator says, I need somebody to do this, and he grabs Hank and says, Hank, go do this. So Hank is, I guess we call him the fixer, right? That's been his nickname, the fixer. So Hank is, if you have anything broken, Hank will fix it for you. But they're all here to talk a little bit about Project Lone Palmetto. You've heard it referred to previously as Project Cloud. I sent you guys a little bit of a summary email. We do want to keep it a little short because John is bolting right to his board meeting today, and we got to keep him in good standing. So without further ado, I'm going to bring John, his team up here, and we'll go from there. Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. It's good to be with you all. Thank you for giving me a little bit of time and perhaps even going out of order to get me in. We have a board meeting that usually begins at 2 p.m. We push that back to 2:30. I have been doing economic development in Beaufort County since October of 2017. The first project that we got was called Project Cloud. John Rembolt and Tom DeMint handed this off to me, trying to figure out what to do with these gentlemen that wanted to develop hangar space at Hilton Head Airport off of Summit Drive. And it was kind of complex because there was some heirs property, there's town property. How do you assemble all this? So just doing the math, this project has been meandering its way through the process since 2017. That's 7 county administrators and 2 town administrators here on Hilton Head. So we've tried to keep everyone informed along the way. I did have the pleasure of speaking to this board. Many of you may not have been on the board last time I briefed you, but a mantra I stick with in Beaufort County is that in the absence of good information, people make up their own. So we try to keep most of the projects that we do out in the public eye. We've done 70 projects in these 6.5 years, and we have not been opposed by a Not in My Backyard group or an environmental group yet. And as you can see, a lot of the projects that we have located across Beaufort County, the whole idea of the environment is probably the most important spoke in our balance wheel here in Beaufort. We look at it as environment, education, economic development, housing, skills development, and then transportation. And we do have the pleasure of working with Hank Admonson, who was originally brought on to be my lion tamer and ultimately became, as John referenced, the fixer. So it's our pleasure. Now, why does a county like Beaufort engage in economic development? South Carolina was on fire, was doing great things across all the different counties. The one county that didn't have an economic development operation up and going until 2017 was Beaufort County. Why would government organizations, the mayors got together with the county council back in 2016 at the request of Bobby Hitt, who was the state's commerce secretary, and realtors throughout Beaufort County, and said, Beaufort's got to get its act together. Why does the government want to do it? You want to broaden your tax base. You want to be able to fund what people expect, whether it's roads or schools and so on, and even preserving open space. You want to have a tax base in order to balance that. As we worked on this for several years and we refined our mission, talking to groups about the fact that we're going to do this, but we're always going to honor the environment. You could hear a collective sigh in Beaufort County that these folks doing economic development understand what we value. They share our values. So it's been my blessing to be here for 6.5 years and get to do this work. So we have been working with the investors. Their company in Lebanon, Indiana is called Lone Mountain. They will name this operation Lone Palmetto, but they are largely a reseller of Cirrus aircraft, although they sell other aircraft as well. As I first got this project, I'm thinking, if we have the clientele that fly these kind of aircraft coming into town, coming into Hilton Head as a front door for Beaufort County, we've got high net worth individuals who will tackle a building like the Graco building that you see on William Hilton Parkway, and a lot of the redevelopment sites that the mayor and the town we're in today would like to see, not new green spaces torn down, but redevelopment of areas in our county that are getting a little tired. So these folks had to wrestle with heirs issues on some 4 acres, and they have been talking to the town of Hilton Head Island about assembling another 9.7 to build 5,000 square foot fixed base operation and 94,000 square feet of hangar space. And so as I speak, I'll hold this up to you. These are the decibels you're hearing as I speak, and we'll get into noise issues in a second. But you can see we're in the 70s, and if I peak, we get into the 80s, and that's just conversation. So they are looking to do a $23 million investment, 51 jobs, averaging over 80,000. Taxes from facilities and aircraft are expected to be over $2.5 million. We had Clemson look at it because good economic policy should not only look at like the stone you throw in the water, but the ripples. So Clemson's Regional Economic Analysis Lab did a economic impact, and it would average $163 million each year over 8 years after being built. And noise impact is about 70 decibels. And in our conversations with Hilton Head, there would be a certain preclusion on the types of aircraft that could be worked on at this site. The site, as you see here, I'll call it, and usually I get corrected by locals, but I'm going to call it Brian, I know you spent some time there. We'll call that the northeast end of the runway? Okay, good. So it's, there was a heirs property out there called the Canic property, which these investors bought. Over those years, we've also done some preliminary work with the Army Corps of Engineers and working with John Rembolt to get the FAA's guidance on how to pursue this project. So we worked on that with John. So the blue property was the heirs property that the developer has acquired. The issue here is that, many of developer would love to be outside the fence. FAA, for security purposes in terms of their whole system, and you all know more about it than I do, want to have all these security badges inside the fence. So that's why the family that previously owned the blue patch kind of owned an island inside the fence. And so the idea is, you see where Arbor Nature is there? The green space is owned by the town today. I should stick with that a half second more if I can go back. But the idea would be to assemble the property, for them to buy it from the town. The second after they buy it, that property will transfer to the county and will be inside the fence and that development. What your staff, county staff, will work on is having a long-term agreement in concept. We envision a 30-year lease with 2 5-year options would be the option of Lone Palmetto. But those discussions have to occur. And then if the project doesn't go forward, Hilton Head would take the property back. Kind of a nice part of this project is that we met with the neighbors. The town council doesn't want to have another Arbor Nature situation where you do something and the residents are really in an uproar. So probably, Port Royal Plantation, we met with, Howard, you were there. Was that in January? We met with them?
correct.
Yeah. We met with them in January, yeah. You were there as well, Brian. And we had a good conversation. I can recall 2 conversations. One gentleman seemed opposed to it slightly, and then on the way out, he was asking the investor if he could invest in the project. So that was interesting. And then there was another woman who had some real concerns about the project, and on the way out, she thanked us for having the meeting. Then we oh gosh, I'm hitting the wrong buttons. But then we also met with Palmetto Hall, I believe the beginning of this month, Kelly, was that this month? Or end of last, yeah. So we met with the folks at Palmetto Hall, kind of a risky thing. I asked the folks there, is anyone opposed to this project? Just raise your hand. Now, I concede there may have been a little peer pressure if you were the one person who wanted to raise your hand, but nobody raised their hand. One of the gentlemen who commented towards the end of the meeting goes, hey, we bought houses near an airport. You would have expected planes would fly in and out of it. So the reception we got from the neighborhood groups was good. Again, back to my theory that if people feel properly briefed and they feel listened to, you mitigate a lot of your resistance. So our very long process, I think, has worked out well. This is what the group envisions putting on those sites that I showed you earlier. There would be an FBO on the left side, and then hangar spaces. And I think to a great extent that may attenuate some of the noise when you live north of the airport. This is a rendering. Things that Hilton Head's going to be concerned about having in the transfer of the property, the land deeds, is that they have a voice in what this looks like. There's a real thought that this should be a great front door for Beaufort County and for Hilton Head, that Hilton Head would have a voice in how the stormwater is treated, not only on this site, but downstream, so it doesn't create new problems on Hilton Head. And then the types of aircraft that could be serviced here. And I don't have the developer with me. I have no doubt that you can, this board could run circles around me in terms of those aircraft, but I think Brian and Howard are familiar with some of that conversation and they could fill in. But basically, it's not going to, there aren't going to be new engine run-ups at this location. It'll be the existing maintenance or group moving into this new facility so that they're not divided up in terms of their operations. We took decibel readings, and again, as I am droning on, I'm hitting 80s, and the readings that we took, even just down, I'll call it down the runway from the run-up location, the highest one we got was 75, and then when you get out on Dillon Road, we were getting from 68 to 65, and keep in mind there were cars driving by. Cars are actually creating more noise than the run-up from the engine maintainer or the mechanic there at the airport was creating. We did the same prior to presenting to Palmetto Hall, and the readings were negligible there. We were in the 50s, and again, you can see just the white noise in this room. If I stop talking, like just south of 50 decibels. So I don't think there was too much concern in the area. We have been working this a long time. Here's some examples. You know, if people don't like noise, then I would recommend that they go to EE0, which just opened up in Bluffton, and get electric lawnmowers and electric blowers, because the decibels that are coming from the maintenance of these gated communities exceeds anything coming off of the aircraft that we see on the east side of the runway. And with that, I thank you for hearing me out. I'd be happy to answer any questions. If you stump me, I will get you that answer. I don't have all the answers, but we have been working on this for 6.5 years. A culture we're trying to create in Beaufort County in 6.5 years won't qualify, but a quick yes or a quick no is better than a long, protracted process. But we think that this will bring, we could see over $200 million of aircraft being housed in these facilities. And we don't have exact numbers, but the thought is that many people will have their plane fly into Beaufort, pick them up, and then fly out after they return them. So some of those flights could actually be two if the aircraft was housed here on Hilton Head versus being housed in parts of Georgia or Illinois or wherever people are keeping their planes today. So thank you for hearing me.
I do have a quick question for you. Early in your presentation, and thank you for coming to explain all of this and keep us up to date. Early in your presentation, you noticed that the investors are looking to build hangar space. Is it hangar space only, or is it hangar space, the space plus maintenance plus fuel?
It should include hangar space, maintenance space, and fuel.
Thank you.
I have one question. You said it's 104,000 square feet?
99. Let me get back to that slide.
Well, my question is, do you know how many airplanes that equates to in new hangars?
In my NBA studies, the answer was it depends. It depends what size aircraft are housed in there. But the aircraft space, and I could try to get you a better answer on that. We do actually, the developers had sent us a list of what they expected to be housed in there. I'd be happy to share that with you. But again, it depends how big the different aircraft are. But it'll be 94,000 square feet of hangar space and 5,000 for pilots and offices. Yeah.
Given the fact that, from your description, I gather there's going to be land actually given to the county to do this. Is there any cost to the county in any other way for this project?
I think any costs will be negated by a lease that John will eventually bring back to this body and have the county council approve. What will happen is I don't have the price they paid for the smaller parcel. We had it appraised at, I believe, 360,000. And the town parcel is going to sell for 1.1. The developer is going to acquire those and transfer those properties to the county, to the county instantaneously, and that it would be given consideration in the long-term lease. But I expect with fuel sales that Mr. Rembolt will match. It wouldn't be an unequal deal to your existing FBO. I don't think it would. So you could expect to see revenues from that, but I'm sure John will structure it so that it's revenue positive for the county.
I know in making the rounds, you're aware of the fact that there's a shortage of hangar space for general aviation aircraft at the airport. And I think you covered this in the meeting when you came to Port Royal, and the schematic has changed a little bit since then, I think.
No, not at all.
Are you planning on having smaller hangars for the GA aircraft, or large box hangars with common hangar space for multiple aircraft, or is it too early to tell?
They have to get a determination from the Army Corps of Engineers, so that will depend on what they get back, and also the considerations on stormwater. So conceptually, there has been no change in the schematic since September of last year, but it depends what kind of design constraints they have once they hear back from the Army Corps of Engineers and the county planning staff and the town planning staff. But this is what they would intend to do.
And if I understood what you said earlier, we do have maintenance over in Hilton Head already? Is there a maintenance? So they would be working together to bring the maintenance over to their side, so we would have just one maintenance. Okay.
That's Jason? You've had conversations with Jason, or is it, again,
I'm
too
usually
early?
on the other side of the airstrip. He's running up the engine and I've got the decimeter. So, yeah, but I have met him, yeah.
Exciting stuff. Excuse me. Was this ever put out for a proposal, or did the investor approach development?
The investor probably had the inside track, and when we worked through John Rembolt to figure out how the FAA wanted us to do it, we would have bid it if that's what they told us to do. But because they bought this island inside the fence, buying this parcel outside the fence, and then bringing it together and turning it over to the county was the recommendation. It took us better than 2.5 years to kind of develop a path forward, but this had been reviewed by the FAA.
But Lone Mountain was was the lead on this?
Yeah, they actually didn't come to us. Well, actually, they came to us, but simultaneously they were negotiating and going through heirs issues to consolidate ownership and buy some 3.7 acres inside the fence.
They're big.
I'm not trying to throw water on it.
No, that's good.
My background in the airline industry ended in the cargo world, and I don't think Hilton Head would ever be a sort center, but would FedEx and UPS pulling all the packages from Bluffton, and would they have an interest in this? But you're so far down the road, but it's still something that, knowing the kind of money those folks spend, is it economically possibly better for Hilton Head if we had FedEx and UPS using that space? I'm thinking with my old cargo hat, sorry.
Yeah, it depends, it's a delicate walk here on Hilton Head to make sure that we're kind of keeping within the spirit of what people expect Hilton Head Airport to be. So I don't know if that's possible, if that would change the types of aircraft, if the length of runway may preclude that from being, advantageous or not. You probably know more about it than I do.
It would work, but it would just be interesting if there's enough volume.
Yeah.
It comes down to.
Before you go, I just want to make sure everybody got a note from Johnny the last night of this morning explaining in detail some of the complexity of trying to resolve these issues. Everybody received that?
Yeah.
Great. And just as an FYI, FedEx has now closed their local sorting facility on Hilton Head, and UPS is either closed or is about to close their facility on Hilton Head. I don't know where that leaves us, but I know FedEx is going to sort in Savannah and send the trucks up from there instead of sorting here. I don't know what UPS is planning on doing. Any other questions?
We'd be happy to follow up with those companies to see what their plans are, though.
I mean, it's worth checking all the boxes to make sure we don't cut off our nose to spite our face long-term.
If not, thank you very much for coming. Appreciate the update. Hope from time to time you'll come back and visit us and let us know what's going on.
Absolutely, yeah, I think people like having our board meeting on Hilton Head, but we coincidentally have ours on the third Thursday. But as there are any developments, I would be happy to be back here. Actually, one thought I had in closing, is something that I think we should all think about, is that with this facility, just making sure that it remains an alternative versus consolidated into one ownership. So I think with your two different sites on the airstrip, it would make sense that you have separate ownership of the two FBOs.
And just out of curiosity, has any of this gone to the town of Hilton Head yet, or is it still too early in the process?
Hilton had heard largely the same presentation with a few of their caveats that they're going to put in the purchase agreement that have to do with timing and use and things like that that are happy, make them happy with the agreement. They approved it 7-0 in favor.
That went to zoning,
No, the town council.
went to the full council.
Yes,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you again for coming. John, let's move back on to Director's Report.
John? Presentation, we'll see you.
That young lady came up there, click, he was already there.
Thanks to John and them for coming and presenting that. I know you guys have heard some of that, but I want to make sure that you had the most up-to-date information, and then you've seen my memo. I'm probably going to send that to John as well and Hank so that they kind of know what my thoughts are. I've got the FAA looking at this as well because there are, as I mentioned in the memo, just pretty serious considerations from the airport standpoint that we've got to look at. We should have to be afterthought in the whole. So with that, we'll get into the director's report. I did want to clarify also the Canic property that was the heirs property that John mentioned is not inside the fence. That's private property outside the fence.
Okay. Just a question on this, just on the way the process would happen. Ultimately, it is your office that determines whether to send that to county council for a vote. Ultimately, county council is obviously going to have to approve it. But is it my understanding that they're going to wait to get an approval from us to make sure kind of all the i's are dotted and t's are crossed from the airport
It's got to
side?
be kind of a joint effort
Yeah.
because John and Hank both realize that the FAA definitely needs to take a look at this. And really the only thing the FAA said to this point with clarity is that it can't be a through the fence operation like we currently have with exec air. It's just not the FAA's model moving forward. So they've been very clear saying, don't do that. And that's why John described the property transaction the way he did. It would have to become
That way.
county property for anything, whether this was this particular development or any development. It won't be a through the fence. That's the extent of what we know from the FAA at this point.
Is that because of the tier of Hilton Head? Like if you were doing it at Beaufort, every airport would be the same?
FAA does not like through the fences. They're just
Okay,
messy and painful.
okay.
And the airport never really profits from it.
Right. Yeah.
But the flip side of that, looking at the positive, if everything else is kosher, the airport is actually gaining real estate because of this. Because right now, that property, as you said, is outside the fence. It's been private property. It's going to be donated to the county, so you actually get more land out of this.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
That's a good thing.
that's a positive, but that's why we need to sit down and take a comprehensive look at pros.
And some,
I would
it
say
depends
that's
on
not
how you
true.
define that, but the land itself, if
That's a can
it's
of worms.
donated.
I
That's
think-
where our future discussions will go.
I think in the presentation, there was some ambiguity when he talked about the economic benefit to the county, maybe in exchange for some of the economic benefits that the leaseholder gets in this process. Is that, I mean, that's still down in the future to be discussed, and
There have been no discussions of
Yeah.
negotiations, terms of agreements, or anything like that. Zero.
Okay.
Other than hearing the word favorable.
Favorable. Well, I mean, they're donating $1.4 million, so, you know, it's going to come out somewhere in order to make it work business-wise to get it back to 1.4.
That's understood.
Yeah.
there's one more, I'm sorry to keep bringing this up. There's one item on your note this morning, item 5, is there a risk of economic discrimination depending on the lease terms that are requested in exchange for the land? What is that about? What's the concept there?
Economic non-discrimination is a sponsor assurance that we sign on to. So we have to be very, very clear that any terms we agree to do not set us up for any kind of fraction, so to speak, with the sponsor assurances that we sign.
Sponsor.
Do you think,
Sponsor assurances, as I described in the memo or in the email, are the strings are attached to all the federal funding.
Oh, for FAA
There
grants.
are 38, I think we're up to now, 38, and there's about 1,900 different federal statutes that we follow. So we cannot be sideways of any clause, paragraph, sentence in any of those as we go into this. So it's very critical that the FAA Compliance Office is standing right beside us as we look at this.
one of the major items that came up when they came to Port Royal to make this presentation was the introduction of a maintenance facility for jet-powered aircraft on the facility. Does this item, number 5 in your note, address that? There was a lot of discussion of, well, we'll limit the turbine, or we won't have turbine, we won't have maintenance facilities for turbine or jet-powered aircraft. There'll be landing facilities, departure facilities, but not necessarily maintenance facilities, which require run-ups. Anytime you deal with a turbine or jet engine, requires a run-up on the property. Does your item number 5 go to that issue, the ability to restrict?
Any of these could go to that issue, Howard, and that's why I'm enlisting the help of others to go through all this.
Why, there's only 1,900 different.
Wait a minute, slight exaggeration, but not by much. I literally was in the course when I got my certification, and the instructor just scrolled down the screen and
kept
scrolled
scrolling.
again, and it was line by line of all these statutes that you got to know and comply with every one of those. I don't know all of them, for
Yeah.
sure, but I have people who help me comply with those.
Right.
It's not a comfortable position, especially if you feel like things are moving quickly. So we need to be.
The big thing is you get the FAA to sign off on it to basically say, hey, we've
Right.
looked at it and said, you're in compliance.
And we have to go through all terms of analysis and things like that,
Yeah.
that it's our job to do because no one else is,
Right.
we have to do that.
Okay.
I cautious about asking this question.
Then
With
don't.
our friend,
That's like starting with, I really shouldn't say this, but.
well, I'm not Donald Trump, but has Signature been given an opportunity to make a bid on this?
Well, you heard John, it's not an open bid.
Okay.
Yeah, because they've already purchased the property, that's their advantage. is-
Part of it.
Well, yeah, but but with that part determines everything as it goes forward to work it, because they don't have to sell it to anybody else. You know, they hold a card, which is probably the reason why they did it, and say, okay, now that gives us the ability to see if we can make this work. If we don't make it work, we got a piece of property to sell. You know, that's the smart move, I think, on their part on what they did.
They obviously see a long-term.
John, did they close on the property?
On the Canic property, I believe they did.
Yeah, they did close on it.
All right, let's move into the director's report. This is a ramp at Beaufort Executive yesterday.
It's a commercial airport.
That's a lot of aircraft out there, so we need more ramp. Number one, I want you to look at all the nice aircraft and say, boy, they sell a lot of jet fuel there, which we do, especially this time of year, but we really need to expand our parking area out there. it's getting pretty tight. But it's great to see that. Okay, I think that means congratulations. I meant to ask Rocio. I figured I'm a context clue kind of guy. But last week, we did recognize Elena as our outstanding employee. She got to go up and meet the county administrator and everything, so proud of Elena. She does a great job for us in the finance department. She works hand in hand with Brian, and the level of detail that they work in now with the finances is ever increasing, because county finances, you may recall, used to do everything finance related for the airport. And now that we've got Brian and Elena doing that, county finance is able to hand more of that over to us, which I think is definitely to our benefit. Great to have Elena there, and I'm glad she actually got to go to the council meeting too and be recognized in front of folks. So proud of her, but we wanted you guys to see it too. That's Romanian, right? Yes. Yeah, so Lucia does our crack research, so she's good. She can find. All right, this is one of our line techs up at Beaufort Executive. You might know Matt Moore. He just yesterday completed his check ride, and he's our newest, unless somebody got one today, our newest pilot out there. Beaufort Flight Training is making pilots like crazy out there. You guys need to know that. You've got a very active flight school there. I know you've got very active flight training at Hilton Head Island with Brian and some of the other folks. This county is really doing a good job getting people in the air. Proud of that, because you've heard me talk about the pilot shortage. So the level of interest in aviation here, I think, is ever increasing. That is definitely to our benefit. So hopefully Matt's not going to fly all the time. We'll get him to work, but it's great. So now we've got, that's a pilot. Spencer's going through training, right? Spencer's going through training, but Rob, you saw last month, Robert, one of our newest employee, just had gotten his license as well. So these guys are working and flying, and it's good stuff. Definitely. All right, we sent two of our firefighters from Hilton Head down to the ARF Symposium. This is a AAAE days involved, but I know it's specific to the ARF guys. That mock-up there is fantastic, so I would. But we sent Kevin and Mark down there, and we charged them with, going there and being sponges, absorbing all this information, and they're coming back, they're back, and what they're going to do is put together a class for the rest of us, so that not only do we make sure that they paid attention, but we need to learn a little bit about kind of everybody's job on the airport. Anyway, some of our training and education dollars go to things like this. It's incredibly important that, the folks from our different departments are going to these training events too, because they are making contacts across the country. And we had an item come up the other day in a meeting with these guys. They said, well, we're really not sure how to do this or that. And I looked at the two folks who had just come back from the conference and said, get with them. They just met hundreds of other ARF folks and consultants and contractors. And that's the best thing about these is getting a little bit smarter and then having those networking opportunities to create those relationships. So what that does is, exponentially grow our resources by those contacts. So that's what they did at the beginning of this month. And last weekend, the airport sponsored the 5K right here on the island with part of Irish Fest. We've got a bunch of new stuff there. So if you look in the photos, you can see our pop-up tent and the banners and the table skirts and everything. Marlene and Rocio and Elena all worked that on the weekend, and Marlene and Rocio figured out what kind of stuff we needed, and they went and got it all taken care of, got the logos. Those are the exact branded colors from the airport. So they did a fantastic job putting that together. We had some giveaways that you can see here. Marlene ran in the race too. So we did have participation. And as you can see on the shirts, both the front and the back of the race shirts had the airport branding on it. So we were the presenting sponsor. Really cool. We got some great media out of it too. We got some Elena was talking to some folks at the booth who came up and would say how much they love the airport, and thinking on her feet and grabbed her iPhone and said, would you say that into the phone so we can use your video? And we got 3 great little, like minute and a half videos that talk about how much they love the airport. And every one of those 3 says they want more flights to wherever they like to go. So I said, we're using that with the airlines, and you probably find it on social media. I think Elizabeth is going to put that up on social media for us. So definitely a great opportunity to get out there. Rocio and Marlene and Elena spent their Saturday out there, so thank you to them for doing that. Great opportunity, so we're happy. All right, and now we had the chamber ball. We had some pretty people go to that. So Leslie got a chance to go, and so did Ann. So I don't know if you guys have anything to say about it. I was unable to go because I was out of town, but we had a table at the ball because of the fact that we're a chamber champion. Any good experiences? How was local?
It was very good. It was a big surprise. I don't think anyone knew he was coming. And he came down the center aisle right as we started the program. There had been no invitation. They hadn't given out any awards yet. All of a sudden, here he comes. They had a little video about him being on The Voice, and everyone was so energized. Everyone got up and started dancing.
Steve, right? If you
Steve,
haven't
yeah.
looked him up, he was on
Steve,
the Voice. And he's from Bluffton? Is that right?
Yes, but he plays at the House of Blues down here on Hilton Head Island. And both of his parents have been in the music industry here on Hilton Head for a long time. They're not well known too.
It was
Thank
very
you
well
for
put
attending.
together.
Sorry?
It was very well put together,
Good.
with a tinge of Las Vegas thrown in.
Las Vegas?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry we couldn't get a picture of the whole table, but they had this huge flower arrangement that there'd be no way you could get everybody.
Right,
But
no.
Senator Jeff Bradley and his wife Ann were there with us. And also we had Dave McConnell and his wife from the group, the contractor group,
Jeff's a representative, not a senator.
Senator Representative, yeah.
Good. Did you work them over for some money?
Tried.
Good. All right. That's why you were there. I mean, I told you you could have a good time, but I had ulterior motives.
We'll talk too long.
All right, good. Excellent, good work. Well, thank you for attending. This is our billboard. I had taken a picture and then I got in trouble because I was driving, so. Marlene, I forget. Yeah. I don't know where she is, she's just doing stuff. So she went out there, got a nice clear picture of the billboard. So we're calling that airport intersection now because there's a couple from another airport that you may have heard of, but you don't travel through. And then there's this one, so we're starting a little battle over there, which would be fun. Anyway, that's our billboard, and we've got the electronic billboards on 172, so if you're coming up and down that road, you see those. They're not cheap, by the way. That billboard's
Yeah.
Everybody says, you gotta have billboards until they price them. Yeah, they are not inexpensive. That's grant money, thank goodness, going to that one, but they're not easy to keep there. So when you see all the other airports, billboards up there. All right, we have had a huge increase in the amount of people who want to come out to the airport and do tours. I spoke to the leadership class a couple of months ago, I think it was back in December. And ever since then, we've had several of their students at a time, or students, I say all. I offered a tour and they're coming out to do the tour. So make sure we get them up in the tower, let them talk to our new tower chief Bill, so that makes it easy, went from Bill to Bill. We always called this Bill Little Bill. So anyway, Little Bill is now the tower chief, but he gives them a brief, lets them know kind of how the tower works and what's going on. And then we always get them a high-speed run in the new fire truck as well. We've got a lot, like I said, a lot of interest in tours. We've got a school group out of Georgia that deals with, I guess they're all older high school kids, so, seniors, folks who are looking for that next step in life and really trying to line up a vocation as they move forward. And they want to come and look at places like an airport so they can find out about different jobs that they might be interested in. Looking forward to that, and that's coming up in early April. All right, terminal updates. I might send you this. But I put together an update last week that we sent to the airlines and the FAA and the state as well, since they're all big stakeholders in the project. This is inside the terminal. We had to build a temporary wall. That's over by the Delta area. And that's so that when it becomes time to connect the buildings, we can connect the building. That went up extremely quickly, and it looks like it's always been there. It's beautiful. Lane closures, if you're driving through there, drive slowly, pay attention to the bright orange everything out there and the signs that tell you to move. Move when it says move, because you might end up in a hole if you don't. So please pay attention. Things are changing rapidly out there. This fence that you see here is either today or in the next couple of days is going to be covered up with an RBC Heritage banner. A big long banner is going to have the tournament logo on it, the FedEx Cup logo on it, and the airport logo on it. Check with the contractors. They said, yeah, it looks a whole lot better than, advertising for a national fence company. So they said it was fine to do that. So we're going to put a big long banner over there, and then we'll work on some things inside the terminal. Nice branding out of that. It's not costing us. Canopy removal, if you've not been around the front of the airport, come take a look. Both of the drive under canopies are now gone. It's bright and open, and today the middle canopy over the double doors is being cut up. That's all so that the roadway can be completed, and so that some of the front of the building that'll happen in this first phase. I think it's a temporary measure. Make a way eventually, like I said, for that 4-lane roadway. And then remember, the whole front of the new building will have a roof that you could drive under for dropping off and picking up. Big changes are happening out there. Taxi parking, these poor guys had to move all over the place like chess pieces on the board as we took canopies down and changed the driving patterns. And that's probably going to happen throughout the project, but they're pretty flexible and did a good job. And so we're good tenants and kind of just some pictures of the site prep. You can see the pad being prepared there, the dirt on the lower left there. Today they've got some of the footers are all they're dug. They've got the reinforcing steel in there, and overnight today, concrete out there. Footers on the lower section where TSA and everything will be. They're moving forward at a nice pace. Hopefully we don't get as much rain as they're calling for in the next few days, but we've been really lucky so far with weather. So they have really made a lot of progress. Happy. Steve and I are out there every day checking with them, and good crew, lots of great communication, so we're happy. Questions so far, and then we'll get into these. Taxiway Foxtrot rehab, we are still waiting on a final green light from the FAA. I'm moving on that, and that's because of those mods and standards we're working on. I need to check in with them and just find out where they are. We've submitted everything that we need to. Did a pre-construction meeting last Friday morning with the contractor, so we've got a nice game plan set up with them to make sure that we've set them up for success and they set us up for success. Because taxiway in 28 days. They obviously want to be very well rehearsed and prepared before they get out there. As soon as we give them the notice to proceed, which is a green flag, then they've got to go. All the paving work will happen at night because you can't get out of traffic. So it'll be nighttime operations, and they've got coordinating real closely between our engineers and the contractor and us at the airport. And I'm confident it's going to be a success. APAC is a group doing it. They've done a couple other projects out there. They did the Big Apron project as well, so they know the airport a lot. So power upgrades, I think we've got all the equipment. Now we're waiting on some equipment to come. It was a little bit slow, but this is going to update some of the electronics and the communications gear and the switch gear up in the tower cab. Literally, there's like a 1990s push button operator console that they use. say less than optimal is a severe understatement. So everything's going to be updated to touch screens and the latest technology. And all we're waiting on now is for the contractor to confirm their schedule to come up and install everything. Be some follow-on work after we do the electronics upgrades to some of their desk areas. Good news is the high-tech stuff is great. That was part of a grant, if you remember, it's about a year and a half ago, I think, that we received. St. James Baptist Church is moving along. That's got, I think I told you, that's got some push from the FAA hires. That is also being considered in the state's budget. So I know that the church, the deacons have been asked to provide some information to the state. Davis is trying to get some money for this. So if he's successful and can get some state funding for this, then that project may be able to speed up a little bit. They've got all their consultants on board as far as the planners and engineers and everybody, and the drawing, kind of preliminary drawings are being reviewed. But that's moving forward. It's still a little bit slow, but it's got some momentum now.
Guilty.
That should cost them $1.
Guilty.
All right, RBC Heritage Volunteers, we'll probably talk about this offline a little bit, but as I explained, I think last month and maybe prior to that, we're going to have a fairly major sponsorship at the event. So we'll have some opportunities for folks to be out there being greeters and handing out. We're going to have some special bag tags made up that work as luggage tags or they work as golf bag tags. Coordinated with the folks from the RBC Heritage and the Heritage Classic Foundation to use their logo and our logo together. So you're going to see the plaid with the airport logo on there. And it's got, hashtag Plaid Nation and just, handing those out at the tournament. So we'll have more information to pass on that. We are engaging the airlines and some other business development partners to see we do have some tickets, and I would like interested in volunteering, we'll talk with you. I'll meet with, I think, Rich, Howard, and who else? Several of you are involved, Leslie, and put that together. So at some point, we'll probably need to chat, and we'll have a staff liaison, don't worry. I'm just not sure who that is yet. All right, and the last one, this is a voting item that I wasn't sure we're going to be able to keep on there, but we are, so that's great news. You may remember, I think last month, RFQ, which is qualifications for airport planning services, was out, and we've gotten everything back in, and our evaluation team has looked at all the packages, read through all the packages. We did receive 3, which is good, so we're able to look at 3 different firms, and we went through our scores. Here's what the tally sheet looks like. Hopefully everybody can see that, but what we've got is a cleared winner in Talbot, Brighton, Ellington, keeping them on board as our airport planners. So this covers planning and environmental services such as our airport layout, environmental assessments and things like that we need to complete to satisfy NEPA requirements of projects. So what I would like to do is get a vote. I'll just jump right forward. Get a vote from you all to take the recommendation forward to public facility board of this contract to Talbot, Brighton, Ellington, and then they would recommend full council. Take a little while to get it fully signed up, but you're the first step.
And I have one question, because a lot of the board members, Talbot Bright has been involved in the airport goes back before the runway extension, it started about that time. Can you very briefly explain the scope of their involvement in airport activities? A lot of the board members are not familiar with them, they know they're here.
Yes, so Talbot, Brighton, Ellington is, we work with the office that's based out of Charlotte, and then also Columbia, because Judy and Roy, he does a lot of our design work or drawing. Work with those 2 offices specifically, and we've got a master services agreement with them, and we have since I think about 2009. Does that sound about right? 10? 2010. So as the last master plan, everything was being signed and finalized, they've been on board, so it predates me. They take care of the full Monty of consulting. So it includes all of the planning, all the environmental, all the engineering, the construction representation, but that includes an even bigger team of sub-consultants. So we've got, financial consultants in there who help us with things like the cost recovery model for the airline fees. We've got materials testing agencies in there. We've got archaeological folks who are involved. A lot of these projects require that. You've got stormwater engineering specialists. You've got wetland scientists. You've got everything that is potentially needed, surveyors, everything potentially needed in an airport project is all contained under the umbrella of Talbot, Bright, and Ellington and their. The FAA has changed a little bit in this go-around where we used to bid the entire packages as one. Now it's split into planning and environmental, and then a second package which will happen in a few weeks will be the engineering side. So it's engineering and construction as one, and then that covers everything I described. But that is, like I said, that'll go out in a few weeks, so we'll be back. Recommendation for the rest of that. That's kind of what they've done for us. It's everything. I mean, Judy and I talk every single day. I talk with Carl, who's the Ellington, one of the principals, and I speak with him every week. But anytime I pick up the phone, day, night, weekends, I can get answers from the engineers. Or just, it's maybe a crazy day when every alphabet soup agency has called me, and I'll just call them on the way home, and they'll talk me off of the ledge. So psychology is not in their repertoire, but it kind of is. So I appreciate that.
Doctor.
But
Dr.
in this line of work, I can tell you that having a consultant team that you can rely on is incredibly important. I'm glad to see the scores shake out. I knew how mine would, but I'm glad to see folks who are not involved in the airport actually had a bigger spread between number one and number two. That's indicative of the professionalism of the packages that were submitted. Makes me all the more confident in the process that we went through to.
I just want to make an additional comment. Since I have been on the board, Judy, who comes from Columbia, is here for every single board meeting. And thank you, Dr. Judy.
Yeah.
Talked me off more than one ledge. Questions?
Thank you.
Need a motion?
Yes, please.
I think we need to wait till we get new business.
Yeah, I guess we can wait till we get down there. We have unfinished before then, I guess. That's the end of my report, by the way, so we can move on to unfinished business on the agenda.
So I'd just like to suggest that, lights out. Maybe on a monthly basis, somebody can send out a PR release about the progress of the airport. It's still very important that we keep the Hilton Head Island Airport in the limelight. Let our residents, our visitors know exactly what's going on. There'll be some inconvenience for the next few years while the project works its way through. So if there's anything significant happen over a monthly period, a picture or two, something in the papers, social media, just to keep the airport in the limelight in front of everybody's face.
Yep. Yeah, I actually did an interview last week. You should find it. I think somebody told me it's on our Facebook page. I'm a little bit behind the curve on that, but we did an interview at WHHI last week talking about what's going on at the terminal. So tune in to social media, local TV. We'll have a piece, I think it's in Bluffton Sun coming up soon. We also have our website with any kind of, when we've got traffic pattern changes, anything like that, that's going to be on the website, and you'll see social media alerts as well. So we've got 4 or 5 different ways that we're getting information out on a continuous basis.
We have all local magazines and our one local newspaper for what it's worth.
The island, Beaufort, is not going to publish it. I mean, they had absolutely no coverage for the groundbreaking. Shows you how negative they are with regards to the airport. And have been.
We haven't been contacted by them. I mean, we keep our county public information officer up to date as well, so she'll be putting stuff out on the county website as appropriate, but all those things, if you're plugged into the little phones, you'll be getting.
Great. Anybody recall any unfinished business? I don't have any on the schedule. So obviously, don't go away, John. Is there any new business besides the motion that you'd like to get done?
I just want to know, I was looking at the bottom of the computer screen where it's 95 and sunny, but it's not here. I don't know where the computer's plugged in, but somebody might want to turn the AC on in the computer room. No, we're ready now for that new business, so what I'd like to ask you for is a motion approval to recommend selection of Talbot Brighton Ellington for the airport's professional airport planning service.
All right, so we'll accept a motion from a board member for the approval of the airport selected firm for the professional airport planning services. And just a point of order, which of the packages are we voting on? You noted earlier, this is the blanket?
Planning.
Yeah.
As it stated on the agenda, professional airport planning services.
Okay. Take a motion. Rich. And it's a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. That is all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent. Thank you very much, John. Nice job as usual. Committee reports, and I think we heard part of it from John. Do you have anything to add?
I'm very good at giving my report. I thank you, sir.
Leslie,
Nothing to add.
we planning on revisiting the ambassador program this summer, or is that a problem because of
Well,
construction?
we are. I did speak with David about that at the Chamber Ball, about keeping me involved so I can keep the ambassadors involved at the progress at the terminal, because they need to be in the know when they're out there explaining to passengers what's going on and directing passengers. That's the one request I did make of them.
Finance has no report at this time. ERW?
We don't have any report at this time. There's no updates on the hangar. And we haven't had a meeting until we really, the hangars are the big thing. But a comment is, I do like the 1200 Aero section of the report down below, kind of showing. It's hard because I know we didn't have the previous data, obviously, to compare to see. But what I did find interesting on the fuel is we have gone down in ARW in the same months, but Hilton Head has gone up versus previous year. So it's kind of odd. I mean, I don't worry about 2 months, maybe back to back, but I'd watch in the quarter and see where we end up after March. If that's still a trend.
Are we competitive still?
Yeah, I think we're competitive. I mean, I'm a captive buyer, so I honestly don't price it since I need it and I'm there.
Well, the number of operations across both airports is very similar, which surprises me.
The lineup of aircraft that John has there is compared to a year or 2 or 3 years ago, it's pretty impressive.
It's really, really big. Do we know what the percentage of our avgas fuel in ARW is due to the flight school? And yeah, I would just be kind of curious on how much it is, because you're right in what you said, John. It seems like they have really taken off, no pun intended, with the number of pilots, new pilots. I'm talking to a lot of students when I'm out there. And so I'm a little surprised that we didn't have higher fuel sales, that we're down still, again, this first 2 months, so compared to what we were previously.
Has the air tour service started out there yet?
Yeah,
That's in swing already?
Yeah.
All right, things are rolling along.
I have one other question. Is there any update on the runway resurfacing? Is that still, okay, TBD? Okay.
And Brian, Hilton Head Airport.
Well, I wasn't at the last meeting because I was out of town, but we did, I don't know if it was reported, in January, we did have our meeting with the Hilton Head Hangars Association with John, and it went very, very well. A lot of misconceptions and important information was cleared up at that meeting, so I think it was well valued. And of course, this project that John O'Toole talked about today is actually part of what we're involved with too.
Rich and I, in your stead, provided some information about that as well. End of committee reports. We now come back to the citizens' comment period. If there's anybody that would like to address the board, please limit your session to about 3 minutes. Tom, nothing? Zero? Hearing none, I just want to remind board members, as I did last month, that in the month of April, our meeting is 1 week later this week. Please don't forget, mark your calendars, so we get to the right place at the right time. It's back in Beaufort. Number 2, we will have elections next month for a new chairman and new vice chairman. Leslie and I are term limited, and the chairman should come from north of the Broad. So you folks north of the Broad, and Mark, if you're still here and listening, I did check with the county, and even though you're an at-large representative, you fill that seat, you are eligible for that spot as well. So,
Mark is listening. Gotcha.
okay, so beware. It'd be better if you weren't. You could be nominated next month, and you won't be here. That'd be great. So,
I'll be in town next month.
to protect yourself, I'm sure. So please keep that in mind. So you folks huddle up elections next month. All right, I don't have anything else. Any other board member? All right, remember next month, April 25th, council chambers over in Beaufort, and I'll accept the motion to adjourn. Oh, Brian, a second. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you for coming. Thank you for everybody staying involved. And John, Steve?